In 2013, a mother walked into a thrift store and found a coat she had sewn with her own hands 10 years earlier, the coat her daughter had been wearing the morning she vanished without a trace, and hidden inside a secret pocket was a note written in desperation, 8 words that would finally bring her daughter home after a decade of captivity. Before we go any further, if you're new to this channel, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications because you don't want to miss stories like this, stories about survival, about mothers who never give up, about hope that refuses to die even after 10 years of searching. And if you appreciate the hours of research that go into bringing you these cases, take just 1 second to hit that like button. It helps more than you know. Now let's get into this story. Linda Brooks had been walking through second-hand stores every single Saturday for 10 years, not because she needed clothes, not because she was looking for bargains, but because she was hunting for proof that her daughter Hannah had existed, that somewhere out there in the endless circulation of donated items and discarded belongings, there might be something that belonged to her missing daughter, something that could tell her where Hannah had gone. The police had told Linda it was pointless, told her that if Hannah's belongings had ended up in thrift stores they could be scattered across the entire country by now, that the odds of finding anything were so astronomical they weren't even worth calculating. But Linda came anyway, every single Saturday for 10 years, walking through aisles of clothes that smelled like mothballs and other people's lives, searching through rack after rack of winter coats, and summer dresses and shoes worn thin by strangers' feet. It was March 2013, a Saturday morning like hundreds of others before it, when Linda walked into the Second Chance Market in Dayton, Ohio. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, the air was warm and slightly stale, racks of clothing stretched out in long rows, and Linda made her way to the winter coat section like she always did, her hands moving mechanically through the hangers, checking each coat, feeling the fabric, looking at the buttons, searching for anything familiar. And then she saw it. Navy blue wool, silver buttons down the front, a specific cut that Linda recognized immediately because she had designed it herself, had measured the fabric and cut the pattern and sewn every seam with her own hands for Hannah 10 years earlier. Linda's hands froze on the hanger, her breath caught in her throat, her heart started pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. She pulled the coat off the rack with trembling fingers, held it up to the light, checked the left sleeve where she knew there would be a tear, the tear Hannah had gotten catching the sleeve on a chain-link fence one afternoon. And there it was, the torn fabric, the careful mending Linda had done the night before Hannah disappeared. The stitches exactly the way Linda remembered making them. This was Hannah's coat, the one she had been wearing the morning she vanished in 2003, the morning she left for work and never came home, the morning that marked the beginning of 10 years of searching and hoping and refusing to believe that Hannah was gone forever. Linda's legs went weak, she sat down heavily on a nearby bench, held the coat in her lap, felt the weight of it, the texture of the wool between her fingers, and if you have ever found something that belonged to someone you lost, you know the sensation of time collapsing, of the past suddenly becoming present, of hope and grief arriving simultaneously in a wave so powerful it takes your breath away. Linda sat there for several minutes just holding the coat, remembering the day she had finished sewing it, remembering Hannah trying it on in front of the mirror, spinning around to see how it moved, smiling because she loved it, loved the color and the cut and the silver buttons that caught the light. And then Linda remembered something else, something only she and Hannah knew about, a secret Linda had been keeping since Hannah was 8 years old. Linda had been sewing hidden pockets into Hannah's coats since she was a little girl, secret compartments sewn into the lining where Hannah could keep emergency money or important notes. A mother's way of making sure her daughter always had something safe, something hidden, something that was just between the two of them. Linda's hands moved to the lining of the coat, feeling along the seam, searching for the opening she knew would be there, and her fingers found it, the small gap in the stitching, the entrance to the hidden pocket, and there was something inside. She pulled it out slowly, carefully, a piece of paper folded tightly, yellowed with age, creased from being compressed for what must have been years, and Linda unfolded it with shaking hands, smoothed it out on her lap, looked down at the handwriting. It was Hannah's handwriting, small and rushed, written in blue pen that had been pressed hard into the paper, the kind of writing someone does when they're in a hurry, when they're desperate, when they might not have much time. The message read, "If someone finds this, I'm in Stone, please. That was all, just 8 words. The message ended abruptly as if someone had interrupted, as if there had been no time to finish the sentence, no time to add more information, just enough time to write those 8 words and hide the paper in the secret pocket before whoever had taken her came back into the room. Linda read the message 3 times, trying to understand, trying to make sense of it. Stone, what did that mean? Stone Creek, Stoneville, Stone Mountain, was it a place, was it a clue, was Hannah trying to tell her where she was being held? Linda pulled out her phone with trembling hands and called the number she had dialed hundreds of times over the past 10 years, the direct line to Detective James Walsh, the detective who had worked Hannah's case from the very beginning, who had kept the case open even when there were no leads, even when everyone else had moved on to other investigations. Walsh answered on the second ring, his voice familiar and steady, and Linda's voice broke as she tried to speak, tried to tell him what she had found, the words coming out in a rush. I found Hannah's coat, she said. I found her coat at a thrift store. There's a note inside. She wrote a note and hid it in the lining. It says she's in Stone. It says, please, I have her coat right here. Walsh was quiet for a moment, processing what Linda had just told him, and then his voice came back, calm and professional but with an undercurrent of urgency that Linda had never heard before. Don't touch the note anymore, he said. Bring the coat to the station immediately. We need to analyze it. We need to process it properly. Can you bring it now? Linda said yes, stood up from the bench, walked to the front of the store, bought the coat for $40, paid in cash because her hands were shaking too much to fumble with a credit card, took the coat directly to her car, and drove straight to the police station. This is the story of a young woman taken from a morning routine, of a mother who recognized the coat after a decade, and of how a hidden message stitched into fabric finally brought the truth to light. April 15, 2003, 10 years earlier, Columbus, Ohio. Hannah Brooks was 25 years old and had been working in the patient registration department at Columbus General Hospital for 2 years. The pay was steady, the hours were predictable, and she liked helping people navigate the confusing process of hospital admissions, checking them in, making sure their insurance information was correct, answering questions about where to go and what to expect. Her shift started at 7 in the morning. To get there on time, she left her apartment at 6 every morning, walked 3 blocks to the bus stop on West Broad Street, caught the 6:20 bus, and arrived at the hospital by 6:50. It was a routine she had followed for 2 years without variation, the same walk every morning, the same bus stop, the same bus driver most days, the same arrival time. What Hannah did not know was that someone had been watching her, studying her routine, learning her schedule, planning something that would change her life forever. Michael Turner was 42 years old and lived in a small house on the outskirts of Stone Creek, a town 30 miles northeast of Columbus. He worked as a freelance accountant, kept to himself, had not dated since his fiancée died in a car accident 4 years earlier. Her name had been Sarah Mitchell. She had blonde hair that caught the light when she walked, a specific way of moving that Michael could recognize from a block away, a laugh that he could still hear in his mind even 4 years after she died. And one morning in January 2003, Michael had been driving through Columbus for a client meeting when he saw a young woman walking toward a bus stop. Blonde hair, same build as Sarah, same height, same way of walking, and for a moment Michael's heart stopped. For a moment he thought it was her, thought somehow Sarah had come back, that the past 4 years had been a nightmare, and now he was waking up. He pulled over to the side of the road, watched the young woman get on the bus, watched the bus drive away, and he told himself it was coincidence, that grief was making him see things that were not there, that his mind was playing tricks on him because he missed Sarah so much. But the next week he drove through Columbus again, same time, same street, and he saw the same woman walking to the same bus stop, and the week after that, and the week after that. He started coming every week, then twice a week, then every single morning, driving the 30 miles from Stone Creek to Columbus just to watch this young woman walk to the bus stop. For 3 months Michael watched Hannah Brooks walk to the bus stop at 6:15 every morning, watched her wait on the corner, watched her board the bus at 6:20, and he learned her routine, learned her route, learned that she was alone, that no one walked with her, that no one waited with her at the bus stop. And slowly, over those 3 months, something shifted in Michael's mind, something broke, or rewired or reconstructed itself into a new reality, and he started to believe that this was not coincidence, that fate had brought Hannah to him, that Sarah had been taken away but now she was being returned in a different form, in a different life, but the same person underneath, the same soul, the same essence. By the 4th month Michael had convinced himself of something that was not true and would never be true, that if he could just bring her home, if he could just have her back, everything would be okay again, the grief would stop, the loneliness would end, the empty house would feel full again. April 15, 2003, the morning Hannah disappeared. Hannah left her apartment at 6 in the morning as usual. The April air was cold, so she wore her navy blue coat, the one her mother had made for her, the one with the silver buttons and the hidden pocket in the lining. She walked the 3 blocks to the bus stop, her breath making small clouds in the cold air, her footsteps echoing on the empty sidewalk. The street was empty when she arrived at the bus stop. No one else was waiting. The bus was not due for another 5 minutes, and Hannah stood there checking her phone, scrolling through messages, not paying much attention to the car that pulled up to the curb a few feet away. A man rolled down the window, and Hannah looked up. The man was middle-aged, well-dressed, wearing business clothes. He looked normal, looked like someone who worked downtown, someone who might be on his way to an office. "Excuse me," the man said, "are you waiting for the West Broad bus?" Hannah nodded, said yes, and the man smiled, said he had seen her here before, said he took the same route sometimes for work. "I wanted to let you know," he said, "the bus drivers are on a temporary route change this week due to construction. They're picking up 2 blocks over now, on Maple Street." Hannah frowned. She had not heard about any construction, but she had been off work for 2 days. Maybe she had missed an announcement. Maybe there had been an email she had not read. "Are you sure?" she asked, and the man nodded, said he was positive, said he had just come from that direction and had seen the bus picking people up at the new location. "I can give you a ride to the new stop if you want," the man said. "I'm heading that direction anyway. It's just 2 blocks over." Hannah hesitated. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind, the voice from childhood, from teenage years, from every conversation about safety they had ever had. Never get in a car with strangers, never trust someone just because they seem nice, never let your guard down. Hannah pulled out her phone, tried to search for information about bus route changes, but her phone signal was weak in this area. The page would not load, the little circle just kept spinning, and she had been late twice this month already. Once because of a missed alarm, once because the bus had mechanical problems, and her supervisor had pulled her aside last week, had told her in a voice that was professional but firm that one more late arrival would result in a formal warning, that the hospital could not have registration staff showing up whenever they felt like it, that reliability was essential. Hannah looked at the man again, really looked at him, trying to assess, trying to decide. He was middle-aged, maybe 40 or 45, wearing a button-down shirt and slacks. His car was clean, he spoke calmly, seemed like someone who worked downtown, someone normal, someone safe. And it was just 2 blocks, the man had said. The new stop was just 2 blocks over. That was nothing, a 2-minute drive, not even enough time for something to go wrong. Hannah made a decision she would regret for the next 10 years. "Okay," she said, "thank you, that would be great." She walked to the car, opened the passenger door, got inside, sat down in the passenger seat, buckled her seatbelt, and the man pulled away from the curb. They drove 1 block, then 2, and Hannah expected him to turn, expected to see other people waiting at a bus stop, but instead the man kept driving straight, and then he turned onto the highway entrance ramp. Hannah's chest tightened, a cold feeling spread through her stomach. She asked where they were going, said the bus stop should have been right there, should have been on Maple Street. The man did not answer, just kept driving, his hands steady on the wheel, his eyes fixed on the road ahead. Hannah tried the door handle, pulled on it, but it was locked. The child safety locks were engaged. She tried the window button, pressed it repeatedly, but nothing happened. The windows did not work. "Let me out," Hannah said, her voice firm, trying not to show the fear that was rising in her throat. "Let me out right now." The man glanced at her, and his expression had changed, no longer friendly, no longer calm, something cold and determined in his eyes. "Just be quiet," he said. "Everything will be okay. You just need to trust me. Hannah's pulse was racing. Her hands were shaking. She reached into her pocket for her phone, tried to pull it out, tried to call 911. The man grabbed the phone from her hand before she could dial, threw it out his window onto the highway, and Hannah watched it disappear behind them, her last connection to the outside world gone in an instant. She started crying, asked what he wanted, said she had not done anything wrong, said she had a job, a family, people who would be looking for her. You look like someone, the man said, his voice quieter now, almost gentle. You remind me of someone I lost. I just want to take care of you. Everything will be okay. Hannah begged him to let her go, said her mother would be looking for her, said people would notice she was missing, said the police would find her. No one will find you, the man said. I've been careful. I've planned this. You'll understand eventually. You'll see that this is meant to be. They drove for 40 minutes, out of Columbus, through rural roads where the houses became fewer and farther between, through small towns that Hannah had never heard of, into areas where the landscape was mostly farms and forests. The man pulled into a driveway at the end of a long gravel road. A small house sat surrounded by trees, no neighbors visible, no other buildings nearby, just the house and the forest and the silence. He parked the car, turned off the engine, looked at Hannah with an expression that was almost kind, almost caring, but with something wrong underneath, something broken. This is your new home, he said. You'll be safe here. I'll take care of you. Now come inside. Hannah did not move, said she would not get out of the car, said he could not make her. The man got out, walked around to her side, opened the door, told her to get out, and when Hannah refused he reached in, grabbed her arm, and pulled her out of the car. Hannah fought, screamed, tried to run, but the man was stronger. He dragged her toward the house, got her inside, locked the door behind them, and Hannah stood in the small living room looking around desperately for a way out, for a window she could break, for a door she could unlock, for anything. Take off your coat, the man said. I'll get you some water. You need to calm down. Hannah's mind was racing. Her eyes scanned the room, and she saw a small desk near the window, saw paper and a pen sitting on the desk. The man turned and walked toward the kitchen, and the moment he was out of sight Hannah ran to the desk, grabbed a piece of paper and the pen, and wrote as fast as she could, her hand shaking, the pen pressing hard into the paper. If someone finds this, I'm in stone, please. She heard the man's footsteps returning, shoved the paper into the hidden pocket her mother had sewn into the coat lining, the pocket only Hannah and Linda knew about. The man came back into the room, looked at her, told her again to take off the coat, his voice harder now, more insistent. Hannah took it off slowly, handed it to him with trembling hands. The man looked at the coat, looked at Hannah, then walked outside, and Hannah heard the door lock behind him, ran to the window, watched as he walked to a large dumpster at the edge of the property and threw the coat inside. And with it, the only message Hannah had been able to send, the only clue to where she was, the only hope that someone might find her. Hannah stood at the window and watched the dumpster, watched the coat disappear among the garbage bags and discarded items, felt hope slip away, and she did not know that 10 years later that coat would find its way back, that the message she had written in desperation would finally reach the person it was meant for, that her mother would never stop looking, would never stop hoping. Would walk into a thrift store on a Saturday morning and find the one thing that could bring Hannah home. All she knew in that moment was that she was trapped, that this man believed she was someone else, that the door was locked and the windows were nailed shut and no one knew where she was. But she had left a message, hidden in fabric, written in seconds, 8 words that would take 10 years to find their way home. If someone finds this, I'm in stone, please. April 2003, the day after Hannah disappeared. Linda Brooks woke at 7 in the morning and called her daughter's apartment. The phone rang 6 times and went to voicemail. Linda hung up and called Hannah's cell phone. It went straight to voicemail, the automated message saying the customer was not available. Linda told herself not to worry. Hannah was an adult, 25 years old. Maybe she had stayed at a friend's place, maybe her phone had died, maybe she had gone somewhere and forgotten to call. But Hannah always called, always let Linda know where she was, always checked in, even when she was busy, even when she was out with friends, Hannah called. By noon Linda could not shake the feeling that something was wrong. She drove to Hannah's apartment, used the spare key Hannah had given her, let herself inside, and found the apartment empty. The bed was made, Hannah's work bag was gone, her coat was gone, everything looked normal except that Hannah was not there. Linda called Columbus General Hospital, asked if Hannah had come in for her shift that morning, and the supervisor said no, said Hannah had not called in sick, said they had been trying to reach her all morning, said it was not like Hannah to miss work without calling. Linda called the police at 2 in the afternoon. The officer who took the report asked the usual questions. Was Hannah depressed? Had there been problems at home? Was she seeing anyone who might have been controlling or abusive? Linda said no to everything. Hannah was happy, stable, loved her job, had good friends, had no reason to disappear. The officer said they would look into it, said most missing adults turned up within 48 hours, said to call back if Hannah did not come home. Linda waited, called Hannah's friends, called the hospital again, called the bus company to see if anyone remembered seeing Hannah that morning, but no one had seen anything, no one remembered her getting on the bus, no one had any information. By the third day Detective James Walsh took over the case. He was in his late 40s, had been working missing persons for 15 years, and he interviewed Linda and Richard, Hannah's father, asked about Hannah's routine, her habits, her last known location. Linda told him everything, how Hannah left for work at 6 every morning, how she walked to the bus stop on West Broad Street, how she caught the 6:20 bus to the hospital. Walsh checked with the bus drivers. None of them remembered seeing Hannah that morning. He checked surveillance cameras near the bus stop, found nothing useful. The cameras were pointed in the wrong direction. The footage was too grainy to see anything clearly. Walsh checked Hannah's bank account. No activity since April 14th. Checked her phone records. The last call made at 9:30 in the evening on April 14th to Linda. No calls or texts on April 15th. Walsh told Linda and Richard that without evidence of foul play there was not much the police could do. Hannah was an adult. She had the right to leave if she wanted to. There was no evidence that she had been taken against her will. Linda said Hannah would not leave without telling her, would not disappear without a word, would not abandon her job and her life without an explanation. Walsh said he understood, said he believed Linda, but said the evidence suggested Hannah had left of her own accord. The case was classified as a voluntary missing person. It remained open, but it was not actively investigated. Linda refused to accept it. She printed thousands of flyers with Hannah's photo, posted them all over Columbus, drove to nearby towns and posted them there too, Stone Creek, Newark, Akron, Dayton, everywhere within a 100-mile radius. Richard returned to work after 3 months, said someone had to keep paying the bills, said searching was not bringing Hannah back, but Linda did not stop. She quit her job as a seamstress to search full-time, spent her savings, spent everything she had looking for her daughter, and every Saturday she went to thrift stores, looked through racks of clothes, searched for anything that might have belonged to Hannah. For 10 years she found nothing. April 2003, the coat's journey begins. Hannah's navy blue coat sat in a dumpster behind Michael Turner's house in Stone Creek for 2 days. The fabric absorbed the smell of garbage, banana peels and coffee grounds and whatever else Michael had thrown away that week. Rain fell on the 3rd day and soaked through the wool, and on the 4th day a man named Earl Jennings drove by in his pickup truck. Earl made a living collecting items from dumpsters and reselling them at flea markets. He had been doing it for 20 years, had an eye for quality, could spot something valuable among the trash. He saw the coat sticking out from under a pile of trash bags, pulled it out, shook off the dirt and the coffee grounds, examined it. Good quality wool, silver buttons, well made, worth keeping despite the smell. Earl threw the coat in the back of his truck with 24 other items he had collected that week, old furniture, kitchen appliances, books, clothes, anything that could be cleaned up and sold. He drove to a donation center in Newark, Ohio, dropped everything off in the donation bin outside, and the coat sat in that bin for a week alongside old shoes, stained shirts, broken toys, worn blankets. Then a volunteer named Patricia Cruz sorted through the donations. She separated items by type and condition, put the coat in a box marked winter clothes good condition, and the box was loaded onto a truck with 50 other boxes, driven to a redistribution center in Akron, Ohio. The redistribution center received donations from 12 counties, sorted them, sent items to thrift stores across the state based on need and inventory levels, and Hannah's coat was assigned to a Second Chance Market store in Canton, Ohio. It arrived in May 2003, was inspected, cleaned, priced at $15, hung on a rack with 30 other coats near the back of the store. Weeks passed, customers walked by the coat, looked at it, felt the fabric, checked the price tag, put it back on the rack. Too expensive, wrong color, wrong size. In October 2003 the coat was marked down to $10, still no one bought it. In March 2004 the store manager pulled all unsold winter items, sent them to a clearance center in Toledo, and the coat was repriced at $5, hung in a warehouse-sized store with thousands of other discounted items. A woman named Margaret Davis bought it in April 2004, paid $5, took it home, wore it twice, decided it did not fit right, the shoulders were too narrow, the length was too long. In November 2004 Margaret donated the coat to a church clothing drive. The church collected donations for disaster relief, sent boxes of clothes to organizations that distributed them to people in need. Hannah's coat was packed into a box with 20 other winter items, shipped to a disaster relief warehouse, sat there for 6 months alongside emergency supplies and donated goods waiting to be deployed. In May 2005 the coat was shipped to a homeless shelter in Dayton, Ohio. The shelter distributed clothing to people staying there, gave the coat to a woman named Teresa Lynn in December 2005. Teresa wore the coat for 2 winters. It kept her warm during cold nights when she had nowhere else to go. She took care of it, kept it clean, mended a loose button that was starting to come off. In March 2007 Teresa got a job, saved money, found an apartment, her life stabilized, she was no longer homeless, no longer sleeping in shelters or on the streets. In June 2007 she decided to move to Florida where her sister lived, packed her belongings, left the coat at a Second Chance Market donation center in Dayton because Florida would be too warm for wool. The coat sat in storage for 3 years, was forgotten during a staff transition, rediscovered during a warehouse reorganization in 2010. A manager looked at the coat, checked the quality, decided it was still in good condition despite being 7 years old, sent it to the Second Chance Market in Dayton, priced it at $40 because vintage wool coats were popular again. The coat was hung on a rack with 200 other coats, waited there for 3 years. Hundreds of people walked past it, looked at it, moved on to other items. Until March 2013 when Linda Brooks walked through the aisles on a Saturday morning, saw a navy blue coat with silver buttons, recognized the tear in the left sleeve, recognized the coat she had made for her daughter 10 years earlier. April 2003 to March 2013, Hannah's 10 years. Hannah spent the first week in Michael Turner's house trying to escape. She tried every window, every door, every possible exit, found nothing. The windows were nailed shut, boards across the frames, impossible to open without tools, the doors were locked from the outside, heavy deadbolts that could not be picked. The house was surrounded by trees with no neighbors in sight. Michael brought her food 3 times a day, breakfast at 8, lunch at noon, dinner at 6. He talked to her like she was Sarah, called her Sarah, told her stories about their past together, about the apartment they had shared, about the plans they had made before the accident. Hannah told him she was not Sarah, told him her name was Hannah Brooks, told him she was from Columbus, told him her mother was looking for her, told him the police would find her. Michael said she was confused, said the accident had affected her memory, said she would remember eventually, said he just needed to be patient, to help her through this difficult time. Hannah realized after that first week that Michael was not going to let her go, was not going to acknowledge reality, had convinced himself so completely that Hannah was his dead fiancée that no amount of argument would change his mind. She stopped fighting after the first month, stopped arguing, stopped insisting she was Hannah, and she started responding when Michael called her Sarah, started nodding when he told stories about their supposed past together. If you have ever been held captive by someone who lives in a delusion, you know that fighting the delusion only makes things worse, that survival sometimes means pretending, that you have to become whoever they need you to be in order to stay alive. Hannah learned to exist in 2 states, the person Michael wanted her to be and the person she actually was, and she kept the second one hidden, kept it safe inside her mind where Michael could not reach it. Michael gave her books, let her watch television, cooked meals, did not hurt her physically, did not touch her inappropriately, but would not let her leave, would not let her contact anyone, would not acknowledge that she had a life outside this house. After 6 months, Michael started leaving doors unlocked during the day, started trusting that Hannah would not run, started believing his own delusion so completely that he thought she had accepted it too, thought she really believed she was Sarah. Hannah considered running, thought about it every day, but the house was miles from town, she had no phone, no car, no money, running meant wandering through rural Ohio with nowhere to go, and if Michael caught her she did not know what he would do. So she waited, hoped someone would find her, hoped the note she had hidden in her coat would somehow reach her mother, hoped that Linda was still looking. Years passed. Hannah's 26th birthday came. Michael made a cake, sang happy birthday, gave her gifts, a book she had mentioned wanting to read, a sweater he thought she would like. Hannah thanked him, played the role he needed her to play, survived another year. Her 30th birthday, Michael decorated the house, cooked her favorite meal, or what he thought was her favorite meal, what Sarah's favorite meal had been. He told her how happy he was that they were together, how grateful he was that she had come back to him. Hannah smiled, said thank you, went to bed that night and cried quietly where Michael could not hear. Her 32nd birthday, 34th, the years blurred together, days became weeks, became months, became years. Hannah marked time by the seasons, by the leaves changing color outside the window, by the snow falling in winter, by the flowers blooming in spring, by the television shows that aired, by the books she read over and over because Michael only bought new ones occasionally. She thought about her mother every day, wondered if Linda was still looking, wondered if anyone remembered her name, wondered if the police had closed her case, if everyone had given up. She thought about the note she had written, wondered where the coat had gone, if it had been thrown away, if it was sitting in a landfill somewhere, if anyone would ever find it. She held on to hope because it was all she had, hope that someday, somehow, someone would find her. If you're still watching at this point, drop a comment with I'm still here, let's see who's truly following this shocking story. And while you're at it, make sure you've hit that subscribe button because we're about to get to the part where everything changes, where 10 years of searching finally pays off. Hannah survived by remembering who she was, by repeating her real name in her mind every morning when she woke up, Hannah Brooks, daughter of Linda and Richard Brooks from Columbus, Ohio, 25 years old when she was taken. She remembered her mother's face, the way Linda smiled, the sound of her laugh, the feel of her hugs. She remembered her father's voice, deep and steady, the way he called her sweetheart, the way he made terrible jokes that always made her groan. She remembered her apartment, the layout of the rooms, the color of the walls, the view from her bedroom window. She remembered her job at the hospital, the route to the bus stop, the faces of her coworkers. She remembered everything she could, held on to those memories like anchors, refused to let Michael erase who she really was, and she waited. March 2013, the discovery. Detective James Walsh sat in his office and looked at the coat Linda Brooks had brought him, spread out on his desk under the fluorescent lights, navy blue wool with silver buttons, a tear in the left sleeve that had been carefully mended. He had worked Hannah's case for 10 years, had always suspected she had been taken, had never been able to prove it, had watched the case go cold, had watched Linda Brooks search every Saturday for a decade. Now he had proof. Walsh called in the forensics team. They photographed the coat from every angle, photographed the note, carefully removed it from the hidden pocket using tweezers, placed it in an evidence bag. The note was analyzed. The paper was standard notebook paper, the kind sold at any office supply store. The ink was blue ballpoint pen, common, widely available, but the handwriting matched samples of Hannah's writing from before she disappeared, letters from her personnel file, notes from her apartment. The note was authentic. Hannah had written it, and the message was clear. She had been taken, she had been held somewhere, and she had tried to tell someone where. Walsh studied the message again. If someone finds this, I'm in stone, please, stone. Not enough information, but it was something, the first real lead in 10 years. Walsh pulled up a map of Ohio, Searched for every location that started with the word stone, found 17 matches: Stone Creek, Stone Lick, Stone Ridge, Stonington, Stoneborough, and more. He calculated drive times from Columbus, from the bus stop where Hannah had last been seen, eliminated locations more than 2 hours away, narrowed it to 8 possibilities. Walsh contacted the Second Chance Market, asked where the coat had come from. They checked their records, said it came from their warehouse, said the warehouse received donations from 12 different locations across the state. Walsh requested the list, started mapping the donation chain backwards, trying to trace where the coat had been before it arrived at the warehouse. A forensic analyst examined the paper under a microscope, checked the degradation patterns, the way the ink had faded, the way the paper had yellowed, told Walsh the note had been written approximately 10 years ago, had been kept in a sealed space like a coat pocket for most of that time. The paper had a specific watermark, a brand manufactured between 2001 and 2005, sold by 3 retailers in Ohio, and Walsh cross-referenced the retailers with the stone locations, found overlap near Stone Creek, Ohio. He made notes, started building a case, started planning the next steps, but he did not have enough yet, not enough to get a warrant, not enough to search properties. He needed more. Walsh pulled property records for Stone Creek, population 1,200, found 63 residential properties, too many to search without a warrant. He filtered by demographics: single male homeowners, ages 35 to 55, residents since at least 2003, the year Hannah disappeared. 4 names appeared. Walsh ran background checks on all 4, looked for anything unusual, anything that might indicate someone capable of kidnapping and holding a woman for 10 years. 3 had clean records, normal lives, jobs, families nearby, nothing suspicious, no red flags, no history of violence or mental illness. The 4th was different. Michael James Turner, age 52, purchased property in Stone Creek in 1999, lived alone, worked as a freelance accountant from home, no criminal record. But in 1999 Michael had filed multiple police reports related to his fiancée's death, Sarah Mitchell, age 28, killed in a car accident in August 1999. Walsh pulled the accident report, found a photo of Sarah attached to the file, blonde hair, blue eyes, slender build, and he pulled up Hannah Brooks's missing person photo, blonde hair, blue eyes, similar build, similar height, similar features. The resemblance was notable, not identical, but similar enough that someone grieving, someone who wanted to see their lost loved one again, might convince themselves they were looking at the same person. Walsh called a forensic psychologist, described the situation, asked if it was possible someone could kidnap a stranger because they resembled a deceased loved one. The psychologist said yes, said it was rare but documented, called it replacement delusion, said grief combined with isolation could create a psychological break where reality became negotiable, where the person convinced themselves the new person was actually the lost loved one returned. Walsh asked how long someone could maintain that delusion, and the psychologist said years, even decades, said the person would construct elaborate justifications, would reject any evidence that contradicted the delusion, would treat the captive as if they truly were the deceased person. Walsh thanked her, hung up, looked at Michael Turner's file again. He had enough for a warrant now, enough to request a welfare check at minimum. Walsh called the Stone Creek Police Department, small force, 3 officers, chief named Tom Bradley, and Walsh explained the situation, said he had reason to believe a woman missing since 2003 might be at a property in Stone Creek, asked for assistance. Bradley said they would help, asked what Walsh needed, and Walsh said he wanted to approach carefully, said if Hannah was there she had been held for 10 years, said they could not risk the suspect panicking. They planned the operation for the following morning. March 2013, the morning of the rescue. Walsh arrived in Stone Creek at 6 in the morning, met Chief Bradley and 2 officers at the police station. They reviewed the plan: surround the property, call Michael out, if he refused breach the door. Priority was finding Hannah alive. They drove to 4782 County Road 17 in 2 vehicles, parked at the end of the gravel driveway. The house was small, single-story, surrounded by trees, no neighbors visible, just the house and the forest. Walsh and Bradley approached the front door, The two officers moved to cover the back exit, and Walsh knocked on the door, called out that this was the Columbus Police Department, asked Michael Turner to come outside. Silence. Walsh knocked again, louder this time, called Michael's name, and there was a sound inside, footsteps, then the door opened. Michael stood in the doorway, 50s, gray hair, wearing a robe, looked confused, asked what this was about. Walsh identified himself, said they were investigating a missing person case, asked if they could come inside. Michael hesitated, asked what missing person, said he did not know anything about that. Walsh said they had reason to believe Hannah Brooks might be at this address, asked if Michael knew that name. Michael's expression changed, something flickered behind his eyes, fear or recognition or something else, and he started to close the door. Bradley pushed it open, told Michael to step aside. Michael backed into the house, said they could not come in without a warrant. Walsh pulled out the warrant, said they had one, told Michael again to step aside. Michael did not move, just stood there blocking the hallway, and Walsh pushed past him. Bradley followed. The two officers came through the back door. Walsh called out, asked if anyone else was in the house, asked if Hannah Brooks was there, no answer. Walsh moved down the hallway, checked the first door, bedroom empty, checked the second door, bathroom empty, checked the third door. It was locked. Walsh told Michael to open it. Michael said no, said that was Sarah's room, said Sarah did not like strangers, said she was sleeping. Walsh felt his pulse quicken, told Michael to open the door now. Michael refused, said Sarah was sleeping, said she should not be disturbed, said she needed her rest. Bradley took a step forward, told Michael they would break the door down if he did not open it. Michael looked between them, his face pale, his hands shaking, then slowly pulled a key from his robe pocket, unlocked the door. Walsh pushed it open. A woman sat on a bed near the window, thin, pale, blonde hair longer than in her missing person photo, wearing clothes that looked old, faded, and she looked up when the door opened, eyes wide, frightened. Walsh asked if she was Hannah Brooks. The woman did not answer, just stared at him, and Walsh asked again, told her his name, said he was with the Columbus police, said her mother had been looking for her. The woman's eyes filled with tears. My mother, she said, her voice barely a whisper. Walsh nodded, told her Linda had found her coat, had found the note, said that was how they found this address. The woman started crying, said her name was Hannah Brooks, said she had been here for 10 years, said Michael had taken her, said he would not let her leave, said he kept calling her Sarah. Walsh turned to Michael, told him he was under arrest for kidnapping. Michael shook his head, said there was a mistake, said that was Sarah, his fiancée, said she had been in an accident but she was okay now, said they were together. Bradley handcuffed Michael, read him his rights, led him outside to the patrol car, and Walsh stayed with Hannah, told her she was safe, asked if she was hurt, asked if she needed medical attention. Hannah said she was okay, just weak, asked if her mother was really looking for her, asked if Linda was alive. Walsh said yes, said Linda had never stopped searching, said she was waiting to see Hannah. Hannah covered her face with her hands, cried for several minutes, and Walsh sat down in a chair near the door, gave her time. When Hannah looked up she asked how long it had been, and Walsh told her 10 years, April 2003 to March 2013. Hannah nodded, said she had tried to keep track but lost count after the first few years, said she knew it had been a long time. Walsh called for an ambulance, said they needed to take Hannah to the hospital, get her checked, make sure she was healthy. Hannah asked if she could call her mother first. Walsh pulled out his phone, dialed Linda's number, handed the phone to Hannah, and Linda answered on the first ring. Hannah, Linda said, her voice breaking. Mom, it's me, Hannah said. Linda started crying, asked if Hannah was okay, asked where she was. Hannah said she was in Stone Creek, said the police had found her, said she was safe, and Linda asked if she could come, asked where to meet her. Walsh took the phone back, told Linda they were taking Hannah to Stone Creek Medical Center, gave her the address, said she could meet them there. Linda said she was leaving now, said she would be there in 30 minutes. The ambulance arrived, paramedics checked Hannah's vitals, blood pressure low, heart rate elevated but stable, dehydrated, malnourished but alive. They loaded Hannah onto a stretcher, Walsh rode with her to the hospital, and Hannah was quiet during the ride, looked out the window at the trees passing by, at the sky, at the world she had not seen in 10 years except through nailed-shut windows. Walsh asked if she wanted to talk about what happened, said she did not have to if she was not ready. Hannah said Michael had pretended to help her, said he told her the bus route had changed, said she got in his car and he drove her here, said he locked her in the house, said he called her Sarah, said he believed she was his dead fiancée. Walsh asked if Michael had hurt her, and Hannah said no, said he never hit her, never touched her inappropriately, just kept her locked up, kept her isolated, kept telling her she was someone else. She said the worst part was not the captivity, was not the locked doors or the years alone. The worst part was feeling herself disappear, was fighting to remember who she really was when someone spent every day telling her she was someone else. They arrived at the hospital. Hannah was taken to a private room. Doctors examined her, ran tests, confirmed she was physically healthy despite being underweight. Linda arrived 20 minutes later, ran through the hospital hallways, found Hannah's room, stopped in the doorway. Hannah was sitting up in bed, turned when she heard footsteps. "Mom," she said. Linda crossed the room, wrapped her arms around her daughter, held her like she would never let go. "I found you," Linda said. "Oh God, I found you. I never stopped looking, never." Hannah held her mother, cried into Linda's shoulder. "I knew you would. I wrote that note hoping you would find it, hoping someone would." Linda pulled back, looked at Hannah's face, older now, 35 instead of 25, but still her daughter, still the same eyes, the same smile. "The coat," Linda said. "I found the coat. I went to that thrift store like I do every Saturday and there it was, your coat with the hidden pocket I sewed." Hannah smiled through tears. "I remembered the pocket. When he took me to that house I found paper and wrote as fast as I could. I put it in the pocket hoping it would survive, hoping you would find it someday." Linda said she had never given up, had gone to thrift stores every Saturday for 10 years, had checked every coat, every item, had refused to believe Hannah was gone. Hannah said she had thought about Linda every day, had held on to the memory of home, had survived by remembering who she really was. Richard arrived an hour later, walked into the room, stopped when he saw Hannah, started crying, crossed the room, hugged his daughter for the first time in 10 years. The three of them sat together in that hospital room, talked, cried, held each other, and Walsh stood outside in the hallway, gave them privacy, called the prosecutor, said they had found Hannah Brooks alive, said Michael Turner was in custody, said they had a solid case. Michael Turner was charged with kidnapping, false imprisonment, and a dozen related counts. During interrogation he remained calm, insisted Hannah was Sarah, insisted she had been in an accident and forgotten who she was, insisted he had been taking care of her. The prosecutor said Michael would likely be found incompetent to stand trial, would be committed to a psychiatric facility, would spend the rest of his life in custody regardless. Hannah stayed in the hospital for 3 days, regained strength, talked to psychologists, started the long process of recovery. She told them the hardest part would not be adjusting to freedom, would be rebuilding an identity that had been denied for 10 years, would be figuring out who Hannah Brooks was at 35 when she had been frozen at 25. The psychologist said it would take time, said recovery was not linear, said some days would be harder than others, but said Hannah had already proven she was a survivor, had held on to herself through 10 years of captivity, would find her way back. Linda and Richard took Hannah home to Columbus, set up the guest room for her, gave her space but stayed close. Hannah spent the first week just existing, walked through the house, looked at old photos, relearned how to be in the world. She went outside without asking permission, opened doors without checking if they were locked, ate meals at the table with her parents, small things, normal things, things she had not done in 10 years. 2 months after being found, Hannah spoke at a press conference. She wanted to thank the people who had searched for her, wanted to encourage families of other missing persons not to give up. She stood at a podium with Linda and Richard beside her, spoke in a voice that was steady despite everything. She said she was Hannah Brooks, had been missing for 10 years, had been held captive by someone who refused to see her as herself, who had tried to make her into someone else. She said she survived by holding on to her identity, by remembering her name, her family, her life before. She said her mother had never given up, had searched every Saturday for 10 years, had found a coat in a thrift store, had found a note hidden in a pocket, had brought her home. She said if there was someone else out there, someone being held, someone whose family was searching, do not give up hope, do not stop looking. Because she had written a note 10 years ago, had hidden it in a coat pocket, had hoped someone would find it, and 10 years later her mother had. 6 months after her rescue, Michael Turner's case went to court. A psychiatric evaluation determined he was not competent to stand trial. The judge ordered him committed to a state psychiatric hospital for an indefinite period. Michael would remain there under strict supervision, receiving treatment for his delusional disorder. He would never be released. The court also ruled that Michael would be prohibited from any contact with Hannah or her family. For Hannah, the ruling brought a measure of closure. Michael would not hurt anyone else, would not have the chance to create another delusion, another victim. 1 year after coming home, Hannah enrolled in college, started taking psychology courses, wanted to understand what had happened to her, wanted to help others who had experienced similar trauma. She started slowly, one class at a time. Some days were harder than others, some days she had to leave campus early because being around crowds triggered anxiety. But she kept going, kept pushing forward. Linda and Richard supported her through every step, celebrated every small victory, every completed assignment. Every day Hannah chose to keep building her life. Hannah also started volunteering at a nonprofit that supported families of missing persons, answered phones, talked to parents who were searching, told them her story, told them not to give up, told them that sometimes against impossible odds people do come home. She became a symbol of hope for families across the country, proof that searching matters, that 10 years is not too long, that love and persistence can overcome even the most desperate circumstances. If this story reminds you that some missing persons do come home, that mothers who search every Saturday sometimes find what they are looking for, that 10 years is not too long to hope, remember this. Michael Turner stole 10 years of Hannah Brooks's life, kept her locked in a house because she reminded him of someone he had lost, denied her identity, denied her freedom, denied her existence as anyone except the person he wanted her to be. But Hannah survived, held on to herself, wrote a note that traveled through 10 years and 7 hands before finding its way back to the person who needed to see it most. Someone is still missing, someone is still searching. Do not stop looking, do not stop hoping, because Hannah Brooks came home after 10 years, and her story belongs to every mother who refuses to give up and to every person who holds on to their identity when the world tries to erase it. Thank you for staying with me through this entire story. If this case moved you, if Hannah's survival inspired you, if Linda's determination reminded you that hope matters, please take a moment right now to hit that like button, leave a comment with your thoughts, tell me what part of this story affected you most, and subscribe to 72-Hour True Crime so you never miss another story like this. These cases matter. These survivors matter, and your support helps me continue bringing you their stories. Until next time, stay safe out there.